today's video we'll be looking at having an eating disorder or recovering from an eating disorder and the idea and the concept of dating. Why is it hard for, well, us to go on a date with another person who might not necessarily know our eating disorder history and past, what happens to us, and also share a few funny stories along the way, because I am nothing but a mental mess. First of all, let's look into why is it so hard for people with eating disorders and recovering from eating disorders to sort of, go on dates and let people into their lives in a romantic sense instead of a platonic sense and see how it goes. Most of the information that I've got has come from people who have written articles about their personal experiences. Some of it has come from research. I will link everything in the description below. This might not be how you're feeling in your recovery, but always remember that every recovery is different from an eating disorder and you might not have experienced relationships. A lot of people talk about the anxiety around food or not being able to be prepared with what is going to happen in terms of food and menus. A lot of people talk about because it's a surprise and maybe that person has chosen it, and it might perhaps not be a chain where you can check up the menu on the internet, because I did that quite a lot. I had to check up on the internet the menu for the food that was going to be there, and then when it wasn't, I freaked the flip out. So a lot of people talk about that and how the anxiety of food and not being able to check it is so high that it prevents them from wanting to go out with this person in the first place. And then that brings lots of other complications, like, do I need to exercise beforehand in order to be able to eat this food? Do I deserve this food? Do I need to lose the weight? Am I too fat? Assuming that anorexia or your eating disorder thinks that fat is a bad thing, when really, honestly, it's not. It's just a descriptor. And it's all these types of things in our head that make us feel like we do not deserve any of this. We do not deserve this person in our life. And also there is this what feels like a taboo in that, when do I tell this person that I like romantically? When do I tell them on the date or on several dates if I like them? When do I tell them I have food issues? When do I tell them about my eating disorder and how anxious food makes me feel, or how I feel about myself? How do I tell it to them, and when? I feel that quite a lot. I talk about my eating disorder on the internet, and so usually on the first date, maybe I might just drop the bombshell. Maybe you feel the same way as well, that you don't know how to tell them. But also there is some science as to why maybe dating with an eating disorder can actually seem quite hard and quite difficult, and we are gonna get into that science because it's cool and we like learning. I've talked a lot in recent videos from when I started this YouTube channel about hormones and how starvation has an effect on hormones and the brain and how you feel in your emotions and your feelings. And again, this comes to play as well on the whole dating spectrum. Starvation affects the way that you have emotional connections and emotional relationships and friendships with people. And it means that because you're starving yourself and anorexia is telling you to eat less food and you feel like that's all you deserve, regulation in your emotions can actually be impaired, and instead of feeling very happy and high most of the time, you can probably experience some really low moods, some closer to depression and some sadness, and you feel like you just don't want to be around anyone. You can also find pessimism, and you won't probably find the pleasures in life. You probably might not even enjoy life, and you don't know why. And it's because starvation affects your emotional cycle in your brain. And this can also work in friendships as well. Like, because of the emotional starvation on your brain, you might find yourself feeling like you're letting your friends down, or you're letting someone else down, and you just want to push your friends and your family or your relationships to one side because you feel like it's better to deal with this thing alone. It's better to not let anyone into your mental health problem and just to face it alone, because it's easier to face it alone. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I definitely did when I was in my eating disorder. I didn't want my family anywhere near it, I didn't want to hurt them, and I certainly didn't want my friends to be anywhere near it. And this is one that I found really interesting because of the high standards that your eating disorder presents you with, like wanting to get good grades, get a good job, make sure you're on top, make sure that you're in control, and you have to look good aesthetically and inside and out, that platonic and romantic relationships then to anorexia or eating disorders are not unconditional, they're conditional. Like platonic and romantic love, people are buying that from you. You think it's something that people have to buy, or you know, you have to look good in order for them to want to buy your love. And I found that really interesting. Like, I'd never saw it that way before, but perhaps maybe looking into my own life, maybe that's what it was. I was people pleasing and trying to get people to, instead of love me unconditionally as friends or as a platonic soulmate or a soulmate or romantic soulmate, I was looking for people to want to, you know, buy my love and go, yeah, I want to buy into that, she looks good, we're gonna give money for that. And that's really sad. And so after all of that information, I will jump into a kind of funny story that happened earlier this year, which I kind of forgot about, and now I've remembered it since doing this video. So let's talk about my first ever dating experience. Oh my god. It was great. Let's state the fact that this was my first date in 20 years. I have never been on a date with anyone ever. But this was a guy who kind of taken an interest to me and was very, very full on from the beginning. Like, he got me on Facebook and we'd met in the library. He was a friend of my friend and we were working on a presentation together, and he pretended to play matchmaker and then got my Facebook and then started talking to me in the evening, and he was like, I can tell you that, and he was very, very keen. He was extremely keen. So I agreed to go out on this date with this guy. I thought, you know what, it ain't gonna harm me. But there were loads and loads of faux pas to this date. First of all, he didn't have a plan, and second of all, but he's one of those guys who was very, very keen and he wanted to be around me all the time, and he consistently wanted to just think up plans, and that made me very, very anxious. And throughout this date I was extremely anxious. He was thinking up plans for the future already, and he'd made them up in his head before he'd even come to see me, and he wanted to see me next week and maybe the week after that and that, and I was just not prepared. I was not ready. I was not ready for an overly keen boy. He was also one of those guys that just was complaining about his single life, and I was like, oh, Henny, now you wonder why you're single? But the real crux of this, the real freaking crux of this entire dating operation was this singular creepy mofo thing he did that I am going to tell you now. We were walking down Regent Street. He was complaining about something or the other. Usually, as you know, in London, in Regent Street, it's a bit busy, and so, you know, we had to get split up, and being the Londoner I am, I zipped, I dipped, I weaved and I bobbed around these people to sort of try and get some breathing space from me, because throughout this date my anxiety was telling me to ditch the guy, you have to ditch the guy, you have to ditch the guy, ditch him. And I lost him for a while and I felt a bit calm. I took a mental break, and then I felt this breath on my neck, this on my neck, and I thought, shit. This is it, I'm done for. I'm gonna die. And then, from out of nowhere, and I don't know why he thought this was a good idea, he then said, if there's one thing you know about me, is that you can try and lose me, but I will always find you. Henny, say what? Out of all of this, what in cannibal name made you wanna say that? I didn't expect to be Hannibal Lecter's meal for one, but to be fair, I mean, I think the signs were all there. I'm pretty sure that he had some very strange tendencies when we were in the restaurant together. I mean, it's been a wonderful evening and the food has been, how can we say, quite decent, but I can't really help but think about, oh, how can I put this nicely? Well, it's just that you didn't touch your meal at all and there's blood trickling from your lips, and now it appears you have a salt shaker and you're salting what appears to be my arm. You know, anyone would think that you might be just ever so slightly be a cannibal.
Huh? Oh, no, I mean, I can see what you mean. It makes sense that you think that and that I'm salting your arm for culinary purposes. However, I'm just trying to make sure that you don't have any, like, cuts or anything, and, you know, that they're all disinfected if they are there. But no, I know, we're not a cannibal. I mean, that's just silly. Waiter, sorry, could you bring over some pepper? His arm needs a little more seasoning.
So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this has been informative and perhaps a little bit funny. Also, thank you to my friend Aaron, who allowed me to paint him up as a cannibal for this. Thank you so much. He is a really great guy. He's also a good actor. You should check out his stuff. I will leave it at the end of this end card as well. We also did a collab ages ago on his channel, and also we did a tea talk together. I shall put those also in the end card as well, and also my channel should you wish to give me a little bit more love. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!